Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 5 o'clock, and we would like to begin our Committee of Adjustment meeting. For everyone's information, we will generally deal with each application according to the order of the agenda. Extra copies of the agenda are available on the back table. Anyone present who wishes to speak in support or against an application, as well as anyone with questions or concerns, will have an opportunity to speak. The committee will make their decision following each application. If there's anyone present who is not an applicant or an agent but is interested in the decision of the committee, you may fill out one of the forms attached to the clipboard on the back table and file it with our Secretary Treasurer Sherry Mott. Please list the file number and your name and mailing address. Copies of the decision are automatically sent to the applicant and agent within 15 days of the meeting. In order to be kept advised of a possible appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal, you must request that you be sent a copy of the committee's decision on the application. Decisions are final if there are no appeals within 20 days after the committee's decision. May I remind everyone to silence or turn off their cell phones, and also to turn off the microphones when you're finished speaking. The first order of business today is to determine if there are any members that have any disclosures of pecuniary interest. All good? Have all members received the minutes of the previous meeting? And if there are any errors or omissions? Rudy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name should be added to the members present from the last meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Minutes? Okay, I have a motion to accept the minutes. Moved by Dennis. Seconded? Marcel. And be resolved that the minutes of the committee adjustment held Wednesday, October the 16th be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Have to sign that. Okay. So our first application to be considered is this the one to be deferred? So this is a deferral, a matter of deferral. Okay, so we're just going to defer this because the agent is asking us to defer this one. So the second application is a severance. And the file number is BNPL 2019288. And the name is Eric and Tiffany Cheney, sorry. Cheney, I'm sorry. And can the planner give their report?
This application by Cheney is recommended for deferral by planning staff because of a comment received from the building department with regard to separation distance between the existing building and the proposed lot line. The applicant has to address those comments prior to us making a decision. So we're suggesting deferral of the application.
So can I have a move?
I'll move deferral. Yeah.
Oh, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I addressed the I replied to Michael Higgins, who wrote me on November 4th about those concerns. And I had wrote him back addressing them. And then I guess the main concern with the way the property line was that way is where the well is. The water line goes north, and it comes about 6 to 8 meters from that existing property line towards the house. I have it shown in this in the email that I sent Michael here. But would you like me to? So, I guess the well is here,
Okay.
and then the water line goes like this to the house, and that's where their concern was, being that the property line is 3 meters, but the water line comes within 6 to 8 meters.
Is this your application?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're deferring it anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's been recommended by deferral
Oh, okay.
for more comments from the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Michael?
It's from the building department
building
with
department,
respect
sorry.
to the spattle separation distance of your existing building and the proposed lot line. Now, in that report that you received, you'll see the comments there from the building department. They're recommending that the application be refused. I'm recommending that the application be deferred so that you can address those 3 comments from the building department with respect to that separation distance.
Yep. Which I did here.
And I submitted that information to the building department, and they haven't got back to me yet. So that's why I'm suggesting that we just defer the application, waiting for them to comment on the information you've supplied. Okay?
You okay with that? Dennis?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions, if I might, with respect to the staff recommendation. And when did the building department make this observation to us, to the planning department? A week, 2 weeks? Just give me a ballpark.
I think it's been months.
Okay, and has the building department gone out and talked to this gentleman at all that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, but you're recommending deferral.
So
And-
that they can address those comments, yes.
I understand that, and deferral, I hope, will have no adverse effect on the application, the fee schedule, or anything else.
From what
Hopefully,
I
it's not going to be more months, because this is the end of the year,
Yeah, I'm suggesting it be deferred until December.
to the December meeting, which is what, 18th, 10th, or something, 18th?
As long as we get information from the building department to support the application.
And you'll be on their back to get that, I appreciate.
I'll ask, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else? Is there anybody else to speak to this application? Just you, I guess. And you're okay with a deferral? Yeah, okay. All right.
Just before we vote to do that, like, do you understand, like, what, I just want to make sure that this is clear, like, what's happening.
Yeah, they.
Okay. Like, so just some
waiting on the
comments.
building- Yeah, I'm waiting on the building.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if it means anything, but I've done a few other setups in the past. It's a very similar situation.
Okay.
I brought some of them, but
Okay.
just a nice they've brought you.
we didn't want us to be rushing you out of here without it being clear with,
Yeah,
okay.
no, I haven't heard that from anybody.
Okay.
So I was told to come to the meeting. I haven't heard from the building department. I submitted the information.
Okay.
And that was November 4th. Through the 20th, I still haven't heard anything.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, that's, yeah, we're trying to kind of make it so that it's not just outright refuse, so, okay.
Yep.
Good enough, just want to be clear that what's happening.
Okay. So I have a motion for,
Mr. Chairman?
go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you very much. If I might, and we're fortunate enough to have a new gentleman sitting over here in the audience who's going to take over the planning division or department at some point, and if not already. And I guess the observation I would like to make is that the handshake between the various departments in the county should be reviewed. I'll put it in a nice term, to make sure that when they make an observation like that, that the action taken on their observation is not months. You know, it's got to be sooner than that. And I appreciate workloads and everything else, but my goodness, I think we have to talk laterally a whole bunch more.
Okay. That being, go ahead, Michael. Okay. Thank you.
I guess
So-
my question too is, if I don't hear from the planning department in the next, I'm assuming the next week to 10 days, I probably won't make the December meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, because I started this, like you say, months and months ago. Is there someone I could
Keep,
contact to push forward?
be affirmative.
Yeah, oh, I've
That's all I
been
can
doing that, but
suggest.
it's not getting anywhere.
Dennis?
Yeah, not to drag this out, Mr. Chairman, but taking full appreciation of the fact that we're going to get another pile of applications to go and visit as a committee. Staff have to prepare that, prepare the reports that go with that. So if you start backing it up from the 18th, how much time does the applicant actually have? You know?
Okay. Yeah, you have to keep on, that's all. That's all
Yeah.
I can suggest.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to defer this, get it on the calendar for December, hopefully.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So I have a motion to defer. It's moved by Adam, seconded by Rudy. Got the application by Eric and Tiffany Cheney, I'm sorry. File number BNPL 201-9288B deferred. All those in favor? Carried. Oh. Thank you. Okay, next up is a application to sever and the file number is BNPL 201-9341. Is the applicant or agent in attendance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can the planner give their report?
This is an application by Michael Squires to sever two vacant parcels of land to be added to an existing abutting lot. The final lot size will be 2,407.96 square meters. The site's located on part of Lot 13, Concession 3 in the geographic township of South Walsingham. The property contains a dwelling, and the surrounding land use is used for agricultural purposes and mainly field crops. Proposed application is recommended for approval subject to the attached conditions because it's consistent with the PPS and conforms to the Norfolk County official plan.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions for the planner? Would the applicant like to provide any additional information?
Just one point I'd like to make out, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the committee. I addressed this issue with Mr. Higgins before the commencement of the meeting, the charge of $253 for the drainage reassessment. He advised me that that's just a, as he called it, he's just the messenger. He doesn't know anything about the message. Having some experience with municipal drains, they sometimes run several hundred acres. I fail to understand how a 4,000 square foot additional land is really going to require any reassessment, that specific property, or any other property within the drainage area. So I would ask that the committee give some consideration to eliminating that requirement, paying $253. Thank you.
So noted. Mr. Dennis?
Could we have a comment from Mr. Higgins on this? I suspect it's coming from some other department of the
Yeah.
county.
Mike?
Through the chair, this application, as all applications, are circulated to the agencies for comment. This application was circulated to Development Engineering, and Development Engineering has commented that the drainage reapportionment agreement is required for the additional lands to be added to the existing lot.
Is there anyone present that wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Any additional comments you'd like to make, Tom?
No,
Okay.
I've made my submission, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any more comments from the committee? Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. To the comment made by the applicant's representative in terms of the dollars, 283 or something like that.
253.
Do we have that authority here, or does it have to go to the Court of Revision?
The drainage. It has to go through the drainage court.
The Drainage Court?
There you go. I'll leave it at that. I got nothing. Okay. Any more comments from the committee? No? Is there a motion from the committee? Rudy? Move approval, yes. Moved by Rudy, seconded by Marcel. That file number BNPL 201-9341, Michael Squires, be approved, the severance. All in favor? So carried. Okay, next up. Next up is a severance in the name of Fletcher Brothers Performance Centers Limited, file number BNPL 201-9345. Is the applicant or agent in attendance?
It's one of mine, Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
yours
thank
too,
you,
Tom?
and the applicants both are here. Thanks.
Okay. The planner can now give his report. Colin?
All right, so this is a severance application for a portion of a presently viable farm operation in the geographic township of Townsend. Subject lands are 57.887 hectares or 143 acres in size and fronts on the south side of Concession 8 Townsend, west of Cockshut Road. The lands currently contain accessory structures to a non-residential use. The accessory structures are located within 30 meters of a property line and are to be removed by the owner. The lands are part of a larger 106 hectare or 262 acre farm operation. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential in nature. The official plan permits the assembly or disassembly of agricultural lots for agricultural uses, provided that the lots remain as viable agricultural parcels. Subject application will result in one lot created and one lot retained. The subject application will continue to accommodate agricultural uses, specifically for the type of agriculture that is common in Norfolk County. The lands are designated and zoned for agricultural use. Single detached dwellings, any accessory structures, and farm buildings are all considered a permitted use in this zone. Condition of the severance will be to remove any structures within 30 meters of a property line in order to satisfy the building department and the requirements for spatial separation in Part 9 of the Ontario Building Code. The subject application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the official plan consent policies. Staff recommend that this application be approved subject to the attached conditions.
Does the committee have any questions of the planner? Would the applicant like to add any additional information, Tom?
Just here to respond to any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Just,
thank you.
I can advise the committee that those accessory structures will be removed.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else present that wishes to speak to this application? Any other comments from the committee? Is there a motion from the committee?
Accept it.
Seconded. Adam? That file number BNPL 2019345 in the name of Fletcher Brothers Performance Centers be approved. All in favor? Carried. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Next up is another severance from the name of Fletcher Brothers Performance Centers, file number BNPL 2019345. Colin?
The file number is actually BNPL 2019-346. So this is a severance application of a dwelling made surplus through farm amalgamation in the former geographic township of Townsend. The subject lands are 1 acre in size and fronts onto the south side of Concession Road 8 Townsend, west of Cockshut Road. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling and an existing shed. The lands are part of a larger 143-acre farm parcel that is subject to application BNPL 2019-345, which contains accessory structures to a non-residential use. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential in nature. The official plan permits consents to sever land for currently habitable farm dwellings that are surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation. The subject application will result in the creation of one lot and the retention of one lot. The subject application will not adversely affect the operation or viability of the farm operation on the retained parcel. And the subject application is dependent upon the approval of BNPL 2019-345 by the Committee of Adjustment. Lands are designated and zoned for agricultural use. Single detached dwellings and associated accessory structures are permitted uses in the agricultural zone. A condition of severance will be to rezone the retained lands such that a single detached dwelling be removed as a permitted use. Subject application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the official plan consent policies, and staff recommend that this application be approved subject to the attached conditions.
Okay, thank you. Committee have any questions of the planner? Tom, would you like to add anything?
Just
No?
to respond to any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this application? Any other comments from the committee? No? And would the committee like to make a motion? Rudy? Marcel? That file number BNPL 2019346, excuse me, in the name of Fletcher Brothers Performance Centers, be approved. All in favor? Okay, next up is a application for severance in the name of Jonathan Keycott. File number BNPL 2019326. Is the applicant or agent present? Okay. Okay. Okay, thanks. And can the planner give their report?
This is an application by Jonathan Keycott for a severance of a vacant parcel of land to be added to an adjacent lot. The final lot size of the amalgamated parcel will be 129 acres. Property is located on part of Lot 5, Concession 10 in the geographic township of Wyndham. The property is vacant land, and the surrounding land is used for agricultural purposes, mainly field crops. The proposed application is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the Norfolk County official plan and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions attached to the report. It should be noted that as a result of comments received, there will be a drainage apportionment agreement, and that should be made a condition of approval and requires a fee of $253.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any comments of the planner? Questions of the planner? Mr. Agent, you're up.
Just to thank Mike for his report and to answer any questions the committee may have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to this application? Okay, Dennis, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification to what Mr. Higgins said at the end about drainage apportionment, and then looking at the conditions here, I don't see it.
I missed it.
Okay.
We'd be happy to pay the fee. Yeah, you know what? We like to work with Norfolk County, not against it, so we'd be happy to pay the fee.
All right, is there anyone else in this who would like to speak to this application? And does the committee have any other affirmative comments? No? And a motion? Adam, for approval? Dennis? That file number BNPL 2019326 in the name of Jonathan Keycott be approved. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Next up is a application to construct an accessory building relief, minor variance. In the name of John and Marlene Smith, application number ANPL 2019332. Is the applicant or agent in attendance? Sam? And would the planner like to give their report?
An application has been received from John and Marlene Smith to construct an accessory building requiring relief of building height from 5 meters to 5.08 meters and relief of the accessory building usable floor area from 55 square meters to 66 square meters, a difference of 11 square meters. The applicant wanted to make the building with a habitable living space and applied for a rezoning and was deferred by Norfolk County due to neighbor concerns. As a result of the neighbor concerns regarding the zoning amendment were about habitable space, building height, property values, if the subject building will become a dwelling. There's also concern that the building is out of character with the area. The applicant listened to the neighbors and concerns and reduced the building height and did remove the habitable space from the building. And the building will only be used for storage and entertainment uses. The zoning amendment application was consequently withdrawn by the applicant, and given the changes, a variance was applied for. Planning staff evaluated the subject application in accordance with Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and in the opinion of planning staff, the proposed variances are considered minor in nature. Accessory use says to a residential use are permitted in the residential area, and as mentioned above, the variances are considered minor. The accessory building is permitted use in the residential zone. An accessory and the area is designated residential, and this, according to the official plan, and accessory buildings are permitted use in the residential area. The development and requested relief is considered appropriate, minor in nature, and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and is recommended for approval.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions for the planner? Dennis?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do have a series of questions, and perhaps the representative for the applicant could note some of them because they may come back to be asked to him. With the pronouncement of accessory buildings are permissible in a residential zone, are there any limits on that? Can a granny flat go in the backyard in a residential area?
According to the zoning bylaw, accessory residential dwelling unit is permitted subject to section 3.2.3.
Okay, so now they're subject to height and size. If it were 108 square feet, 10 by 10, whatever, it would be permissible, much like pool cabanas, pool sheds, right?
Well, accessory buildings, not habitable buildings, but accessory buildings are...
Okay, but let's talk about a granny flat for the moment.
It would... The granny flat, you would have to, it is a permitted use, subject to the conditions, subject to the provisions of the zoning bylaw.
Okay. And in anticipation of tonight's meeting, I did pose some questions to staff, so they're not going to be surprised about what I'm going to be asking, and I think that's a fair approach to things. The definition between habitable space and livable space is what?
To you, Chair, to you, the definition of habitable space is defined in the zoning bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
Living space is not defined and is not in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, so going back to when this application was before council and was deferred, they were requesting, the applicant was requesting habitable space, correct?
Correct.
And that term has now been taken out, correct?
Through the chair to you, yes, it has.
Okay, now when I and the rest of the council look at the application itself, and we go around and we look at all the properties, and on this one, it talks about livable space. And I was copied as the committee was today on an email from the representative of the applicant talking about livable space. What the heck is that?
You may ask the agent for the
Okay,
applicant.
well, that's why I said, put your ears on there, Sam.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Also, in looking at the original application, it came to my attention, and I'm sure others, because I posed these questions and I copied all of the committee. There was a foundation that was poured. Who would have issued the permit for that foundation?
Through the chair, Norfolk County.
Under which department? Planning or building?
Building department.
The building department?
Correct.
Okay, and the foundation, as I understand, is for 66 square meters.
That's correct.
Yet they didn't have any permission for 66 square meters at that point.
They applied for the permit was approved, and the foundation was put in and inspected.
So it was approved, fees were paid, foundation was poured, and it was inspected for
Correct.
66 square meters.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Once again, I'm looking at the handshake between departments here. I'm not going to talk about height because I have no problems with 2 inches greater than what has been applied for. And we do know that on December's meeting of council, there's supposed to be a zoning bylaw change that this committee initiated in terms of height and getting back to what the heights used to be, so that we're not inundated with all these requests all the time and costing people money. but it's the 66 meters that has me a bit concerned. Another question. What's a cabana versus what's a pool house? Because if I look at the GPS and the map, I see immediately to the south and the west, there's a pool and a pool house. And I'm assuming, because I used to have a pool and a pool house, that I would have friends over and we could entertain, and the word entertainment is used in this application. What would be the difference between the pool house and the pool and the lot coverage of the pool and the pool house versus this application of 66 square meters, which is 11 square meters larger than presently required or permitted?
Through the chair, you can ask the agent with respect to the cabana.
Okay.
When it comes to the pool house, it is an accessory use to the residential use. And it is subject to the provisions of the zoning bylaw with respect to square meter.
Okay. And it would not be defined as habitable space, or would it?
Well, the definition of habitable space includes a building that's used for living, sleeping, cooking, or eating purposes, including, without limiting the generality of the foregoing, a bedroom, living room, recreation room, family room, den, library, kitchen, sewing room, or enclosed sunroom.
Okay, thank you for that.
So if it's not including any of those things, then it wouldn't be considered a habitable room.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And again, to the representative, keep your ears on. Lot coverage. We deal a lot with the with the resort area issues, cottages, boathouses, those kinds of things. And in the lakefront area, there are limitations on lot coverage. And we deal with excess coverage for decks, for boathouses, all the time. Are there such restrictions in a residential area on lot coverage? Or could fill your whole backyard up?
Through the chair.
Yeah.
There is no definition of lot coverage in the urban area,
Okay,
but when it comes to an accessory building, the general provisions section of the zoning bylaw addresses accessory uses to residential uses. That's where the 55 square meters comes in.
okay, thank you very much for that. And I have one last question, at least that I've written down at the moment, and I'm sure others may have questions. But the Ontario government is pushing hard for infill and second livable spaces. Now, I could rent out and I may use the terminology wrong here, but I could rent out an apartment in my basement, basically, you know, if come to council or come to a committee of adjustment and get the permissions. But the province is pushing for that type of stuff, are they not?
Through the chair, I understand, yes.
Okay. And so if they had come and said, okay, we want to do this, we want a secondary living space on our lot that we own, our property, you know, how would that, it's hypothetical, how would that be received?
We'd have to evaluate it in accordance with the provisions of the
Yeah.
zoning bylaw and the policies of the official plan and the provincial policy statement.
Okay.
And I have to understand exactly with respect to where it's going to be built and how to service it.
Okay. I just don't want anybody to walk away from here tonight knowing that we haven't asked all the questions and that type of thing. And we've looked at all the aspects. And the reason I asked that last question gets me back to the granny flat issue.
Just if I may, they've taken that terminology out of their application.
Habitable space, I understand that. But they're using the term in the application and in an email we saw today, of livable space,
Okay. I think
which there is no
Michael
definition
has
for.
described to you what habitable
Yeah.
space is under the zoning bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm finished my questions anyway.
Anybody else? Marcel? Rudy? Mike, just turn your mic off, please. No.
It's still not on? Oh, sorry.
It's too bad that the foundation has been already poured, because I would have liked to seen a reduction in that size right to the guidelines of the 55. I don't know if your applicant is possible that he could maybe change that yet, or would he be willing to?
If we're forced to, I mean, we're here to request a minor variance. That's what we're here for. So we're requesting the larger scale of a building. And yes, we applied to Norfolk County for a building permit. And yes, so I didn't apply for the building permit, but someone did. And there was an inspection for the foundation. The foundation was poured. Everything was done above board. And now, now I got involved, and now I'm trying to do things above board and, make sure that we get the correct approvals here. So there is a foundation in place that does not meet the bylaws, that has been approved by Norfolk County. So what we're here to ask you is, can we continue to use that foundation that has been poured and build a building that is a permitted use of a non-habitable living space meant for entertainment and storage purposes? And I've actually done some drawings here to give you, as council, an idea of what would it look like if the building met the bylaw. Okay, so there's two documents here, one of the floor plan, and there's a comparison of two, and I assume...
That's that one there.
Yes, that one there. I assume everyone's gotten a paper copy of that.
Adam, did you get that? Okay.
It might have been a separate package there. Okay,
handed
so
us.
in this package, you can see the floor layouts, and there's a hatched area that is 4'4" in depth and 23'7" in length on the right-hand side. So that hatched area represents the area that would have to be removed from the building in order for it to meet the 55 square meters. On the left-hand side is what we've applied for and what we're requesting for the minor variance.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes,
before-
please.
Is that on the house side?
That is on the house side. That is what
Okay.
my clients see.
Okay.
There's only one property that's abutting my client's property that will see this change.
Okay.
Now, when you look at the elevations, now I've done elevation comparisons. On the left-hand side is a front view of what my clients see and a side view. So and then on the right-hand side, there's a front view of what meets the bylaw and a side view of what meets the bylaw. As you can see, there's no difference. If there was a 1-inch difference because of the roof, a standard roof pitch, where it meets. So there's 1 inch of building height, and we're requesting relief of 3 inches currently from the front side, the side my clients see, whereas the back side is actually within the bylaw regulation of 16 foot 5 inches.
Okay.
So, and there's pictures that we've taken of my client's site that actually goes around with a 16-foot 2x4, and we've walked around, and so the bylaw would actually be 5 inches above this 2x4. And as you can see in these photos, the site is fully protected by trees. When you look at these photos on the screen there, the trees are significant growth, and there really isn't a major impact to the neighborhood. Okay.
Just a couple more questions. So, is the roof open, or is it finished, or?
The roof would be finished with asphalt shingles.
Right,
Yes.
but is there a ceiling, or is it?
And this is why we want it to be the maximum it can be. There is a cathedral ceiling to the inside that would just create a grand ceiling, so that's very astute of you to notice.
Could you tell me the pitch of that roof?
Okay, so in the comparison I've done here, for the drawing on the left-hand side, what we're asking for application for, I believe it is a 712 roof pitch from back to front, whereas if we meet the bylaw, it would be 10.5, 12 roof pitch.
So could you just run that by me again? So
Okay,
712,
so currently with the submission we've done, it's currently, I believe, 712.
that's what you're applying.
That's what we're applying for currently, yes. Which is on my client's side, it's 3 inches over the bylaw, whereas on the neighbor's side, the back side, it's actually under the bylaw requirement.
Okay, all right.
So you're telling me it's only going to be 3 inches higher than the bylaw would be?
Correct, from my client's side. Whereas the grading at the back of the building is 6 inches higher than the front of the building.
So 712, that's a pretty steep pitch. It's pretty.
To be honest, I think we've built 30 houses this year, and there's been one house built less than 712 roof pitch.
Anybody else? Okay, oh, Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the representative of the applicant. I have 2 areas of questioning, and they both have been commented upon in the report from staff. And one is drainage, what you intend to do with drainage, particularly at the back. And what do you do about water service?
Okay, so the drainage concern, I believe in the original building permit, there was some type of drainage plan, or that I would have to confer with staff. I don't believe that this is a part of this application, but that would, in order to get a building permit, drainage would have to be considered. What was your other question? Oh, water service, that would come directly from the home. So a bathroom is permitted within the permitted use of this building and within the bylaw. Originally, in our original application, for habitable space, in our original application, we had a kitchen sink. So this was meant for an entertainment kitchen, whereas now we've removed the kitchen. It is only meant for entertainment purposes. There's no cooking going to be happening within this kitchen.
So there'll be no other sink other than the bathroom sink?
Correct, and the
Okay.
bathroom sink is
All
allowed.
right. Okay. Anybody else? Dennis, you good for now? Okay, Sam, we'll give the next group, if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this application. I know that's a loaded question right now, but I'm just going to caution the audience that everyone gets a chance to speak. We want to hear new information. We don't want to hear the repeat of the 5 people ahead of them and this sort of thing. So if you want to line up and be ready in the queue, if you want to speak to this application, the floor is open. Who's first? Sorry, just state your name, please.
My name is Pat McElhone. I live at 3 Carolinian Court, and Fran, my wife, and I are presenting the following information for this committee. First of all, we are opposed to the recommendation or proposed relief, and I'll try not to repeat some of what's been said here, but there is a connection. And when we look at the first time when it was, and the reason I'm saying that, because unless I'm wrong, I'm not sure the committee has had the letters or emails, information that we have sent in, we the neighbors in that community, to you prior to today. If you had it prior to today, then that's wonderful. If you haven't, it's a lot of information to be taking in and trying to digest in order to make an informative decision here. Your job is a very important one. It's not one that ends up hearing some things that fit in line and not knowing the history that has taken place. I think the very first point that needs to be mentioned, this is the first one that came out was the zoning amendment on application on September 10th. What you heard, it was deferred for 2 reasons, maybe 3 reasons that I'm hearing. You're hearing habitat, you're hearing height, and you're hearing square footage. 2 of those 3 have been addressed. The third one, the square footage, has not been addressed. In the first one where the height was addressed, and now within 3 inches, as I'm hearing, or very close to that, brings it like a 0.016% increase, so that variance. The square footage, 11 square meters that they are asking for, is 20% larger than what the bylaws allow. Question being is, what constitutes a variance? Is a variance of 0.016% in height? Is that acceptable? It seems to be, it's on line with that, to what was allowed. But 20% more, instead of having a 592 square foot building, or 55 square meters, you have now a 710 square foot building, or 66 square meters. So that's the first question I really wish this committee to seriously consider. 20% is huge. Next point that comes out, I'm looking at, when this project was taken on by the Smiths, they knew what the bylaws were. I'm sure going to get the building permit and what was allowed, they knew going into it ahead of time. But they still went with a structure that is larger than that. So the question on the footing or it's ready to build upon has never changed from day one. So maybe the question is, why would you go ahead without getting approval first? The next question and I guess what ties in that is, if our bylaws are there to give us guidance, and they have been put together by individuals from our municipality working together as yourselves in a committee, and you bring these for the good of the town, then they're expected to be followed. But once again, we're looking at this, and this is not the case. So why do our bylaws exist if they have no meaning? We come back and we look at the idea is, if you as the committee accept this today, then you are possibly setting a dangerous precedent. That being, what stops the next project or proposed relief coming that is much the same as this, and they move ahead on it? Where do you finally draw the line? So when we have bylaws out there, they're for us. There isn't one neighbor in our neighborhood who is opposed to the bylaws. The first time the application went out in that zoning, to that zoning planning, it went out to 53 homes. 90% of the neighbors in the neighborhood were opposed to this. The other ones were just no response. This time, it's still the same structure that we're talking about, and now becomes a variance, so that application, or that only notice goes out to 17 homes. Well, guess what? Of the 17 homes, 15 of those homes have still indicated they're not in favor of this proposal. 2 had no comment or could not be reached. So I think that is important to still consider in the decision making today. Question I do have on the planning report, which I did receive today, and I do thank Sherry for that. I'm getting it to myself, because I don't know how you can speak to something unless you have a report in front of you. That's why I raised the question, did you have all the emails ahead of time? Because having them in front of you today, I'm sure, well, if you read through all of them, that's great, because you must have been here quite early. And for what I'm hearing under the number of emails that had to be read, I know what I had sent in from the neighbors. The first one that I look at, and it talks about And I'm looking at that plan report, I guess it's at page 2, and it says, I'll quote, "The proposed design of the structure is similar to that of existing structures in the settlement areas." It's not the same. There isn't one in our area, one pool house, or if someone wants to call it a cabana or whatever it is, that is beyond the bylaws that are given. So the 5 meters for height and the 55 meters of square footage is being met in our area of all those homes. The second thing it talks about, it says, "The proposed building is well screened from the neighboring properties on 2 sides." Well, that's good. There's 2 sides, and we have the Smiths on the front, or Ward Street. We're the ones right behind. It is not screened. We can see the structure very clearly, and I invite any one of you, if you wish to come and see it. My understanding is you probably have gone out and seen the site, but you would have seen it from the north side. Okay, so on Werrett. But you wouldn't have seen it from the south side. So I really feel that's important to know. It is open. We know exactly what's there. And the Smiths do a wonderful job, their place. I'm not putting them down whatsoever. And I know, Sam, you will build a wonderful building. Just do it within the guidelines. It'll still be wonderful. The last point I'd like to make, it says, "Given these changes, the applicant has shown willingness to work with the neighbors and the variances are considered appropriate." Well, working with the neighbors, what came out in the first time? Meeting 2 out of 3 conditions is a move in the right direction. But why not move on? You know, if we didn't have the bylaws or we weren't going outside the bylaws, we wouldn't be having this meeting right now. So those are the points I just ask that the committee please consider, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. No applause. Next. Can you, okay, I'm sorry. Before you start, go ahead, Dennis. He wants to ask a question?
Last speaker, yeah, please.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Just a question. It's fairly obvious that you've done a lot of homework since the September meeting of council. But the question is to clarify that you do understand, and everyone else understands, that the law does permit variances from bylaws.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Question back. What is the limit on percentage on a variance? To whoever wishes to speak to that.
You want to take a stab at that one?
There are no limits. Basically, when planning staff reviews any application for variance, as I mentioned in my report, we look at, and again, it's my opinion, based upon my experience and my knowledge. We look at whether it's compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. I think it is. Whether it's in general conformity with the official plan policies and residential uses are accessory uses to residential uses are permitted. When it comes to the zoning bylaw, we look at the zoning bylaw, and accessory uses are permitted uses in residential zones. And since the accessory uses are consistent with the general intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw, I consider this appropriate development.
Okay, thank you. I'm not into a debate here about back and forth. You're stating your opinion, and I hope you still keep in mind what was said by myself. Thank you.
Okay, next, your name and oh, sorry, Dennis, go ahead.
There we go. Just a point of clarification from staff before we proceed.
Mm-hmm.
The last speaker did mention that, in his opinion, this would be setting a precedent. And I just want to make sure that all the things I've ever dealt with, these are one-offs. They may set an example, but they don't set a precedent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else? Ma'am?
I'm
Your turn.
Janet
Name,
Kezakavichis.
address.
Janet Kezakavichis.
Okay.
I live at 4 Carolinian Court. I've enjoyed that neighborhood for probably the last 4 years. I'm of the opinion that the building proposed does not meet the definition of an accessory building. It's actually the size of a small home. Now I'm confused. I couldn't quite hear everybody's comments about habitable versus non-habitable. If someone could explain that to me. The application now says what as opposed to habitable?
The application is different than the zoning application, and it's removed any habitable space. Now, habitable space, according to the definition of the zoning bylaw, shall mean a room used or intended to be used for living, sleeping, cooking, or eating purposes, including, without limiting the generality of the foregoing, a bedroom, living room, recreation room, family room, den, library, kitchen, sewing room. They have removed the kitchen, and that makes it an uninhabitable building
I see.
because it doesn't meet the definition.
Well, I guess there won't be a kitchen in it now or a sink in it now, but I'm sure that down the road there could actually be small modification made to add one. As I mentioned before, it's actually the size of a small home. We talked about it at the, I was here at the last meeting, and it was determined that the building is going to be probably priced in the neighborhood of $300,000, which makes it a pretty outstanding accessory building. Our neighborhood is zoned R1 single family, and it's a beautiful neighborhood, and I believe having 2 possible homes on a lot is not beneficial to any of us. If it's the size of a home, in terms of rear and side yard setbacks and so on and so forth, it certainly doesn't meet that. As I mentioned before, we're not a high-density area. It does infringe on my neighbors to the rear of them. Perhaps the county didn't notice that the foundation was larger than that was allowed. But I don't think we should start building on mistakes. And in regards to the kitchen, like I said, it could be added at any time. I like the neighborhood, and I feel that it doesn't comply with the R1 zoning, and I feel that the height and the size of it is not appropriate for a residential neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Adam?
I have a question for Michael. Does it comply with the R1 zoning? Right. So,
But in an R1 zone, accessory building is a permitted use.
But I'm saying that this building could very well become a second dwelling. It would be very easy for it to be a second dwelling. Now, that being said, where does it stop? Can I have a garden shed in my backyard and maybe my neighbors can come and buy bread and milk? I mean, we have bylaws and zones in an effort to protect the character of our neighborhoods. This is one of the prettiest neighborhoods in town. I've sold real estate for 32 years, and I have to say I've sold thousands of homes and worked with thousands of people, and I'm not just here to be frivolous. I don't believe, especially in that neighborhood, that it's appropriate to have something that could be used as a second home in the backyard. And it does not meet the side yard setbacks, the drainage requirements, and the things that would be required. The gentleman that spoke about the pitch of the roof, he said he has only built one home this year that has a lower pitch. He didn't say one garden shed or one accessory building. He said he's only built one home with anything smaller than that pitch. That in itself tells you right there where the comparable buildings belong to this one or coincide with this one. Make no mistake, this is something that could be considered a home in their backyard. I've brought a couple of listings that I've sold within the last month, and both of them are full-sized homes with 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and they are smaller than the accessory building proposed in this neighborhood. Thank you.
More a comment than a question, and just looking at the report from staff, once again, on the 3rd page at the very top, that the setbacks are more than the minimum set by the bylaw.
My name is Jim Vincare, and I live at 18 Blossom Ave. I was in part of the first catchment when you sent out the thing, and then I'm one of those people that Pat referred to as not being notified second time around. Okay, so Janet pretty much took my thunder there kind of thing because she's covered all the bases. So I guess when the one thing that was said that it was only 3 inches, I sort of look around the room and I see people thinking, 3 inches, not too bad. But then when it's followed by a cathedral ceiling and stuff like that, and I was here at the first meeting when Mr. Bunting said that this building was in the neighborhood of $300,000. Who builds a $300,000 building with no intentions of using it greater than that, like just strictly storage and a little entertainment? It just doesn't fit the scale of the whole neighborhood. So Janet's captured it, and Mr. McElholm has captured it. So that's it. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, but be more to the planning staff. Recognizing that there's quite a few of the neighbors are in opposition because of the size of the proposed building. Have you identified any other instances in that neighborhood or anywhere else in Simcoe where that size of accessory structure has been allowed or permitted?
No, I have not.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And just to make sure that we're clear about everything, from my perspective, I'm here tonight to look at a request that says we want to be a few inches over what is allowable, and we want to have 11 square meters greater than what is allowable. And I use the word allowable because an accessory building is allowable. If it was 55 square meters, would we be here tonight? No. So I just want to put it in perspective. We know that there's a report coming to council about heights and trying to put in the back. We initiated that here. So that would not be an issue at any point. I live not in that exact neighborhood, but very close to it. And the house I've purchased had a 700 square foot addition to the house. It's not an accessory building. And it's pretty large because the slope goes down. So there are examples out there of add-ons or build-ons, if you want to use that terminology. But I want to make it clear, we're here to talk about the few inches above what's allowable and the 11 square meters that is above what's allowable. Just put it in perspective, Mr. Chairman. It's not about what the neighborhood looks like and that stuff, because you can't measure that. Just, may I, Mr. Chair, just, I know that you said these in your opening words, but I want to make it very clear to the folks here. If you sent in an email or a letter, or if you speak tonight, your rights to appeal to LPAT are preserved. Otherwise, sign the sheet at the back. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, I just would like to make some final comments just to, I guess, put this to rest. They did make some good comments, and I met with them after the previous meeting to listen to some of their concerns and work with them, and I appreciate their concerns because they live in the neighborhood. So what I did, I went back, addressed the concern about the roof height. We came down over 5 feet. Huge amount. I listened to their concerns about the habitable living space. They were concerned it would be turned into an Airbnb and there would be parties out there. And my client, that's not my clients. They are interested in putting a lot of money into this. That's their decision. They go away and live. They live somewhere else during the winter time. It would turn into a storage building at that point. We're here. The bylaws are in place as a benchmark, a guidance, just as a benchmark. We're obviously here asking for a minor variance. I've presented you with this drawing to show you the difference from the building that we're requesting to the building that would be meeting the bylaw. There is very minor, there's 1 inch difference. The look of the building looks the same. This is minor in my professional opinion. It will not have any impact to the neighbors to the side or the rear. It will look identical. And that's the point I would like to stress is the building will look identical, whether it meets the bylaw or we build it according to our application. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a slight resume. We have an application that originally went to council. Council deferred it. The applicant has revised their plan and come back now to Committee of Adjustment with minor variances by definition. And the speaker was correct. What's minor in nature? And we've been dealing with these year after year after year. And we never know what the definition of minor variance is. It's whatever it is. The square footage of this proposed building, as Ms. Kevakavich has said, size of a house, small house. Heck, you won't buy $1 million condo in Toronto at 800 square feet. But having said that, accessible buildings or accessory buildings are allowed. They've taken out the terminology habitable. They've taken out the kitchen. They leave a sink and a toilet. Let's clear the decks on what if they do this, what if they do that. Well, we can't read anybody's mind. We have no idea. If some subsequent building starts, then there's a complaint-driven process. Somebody's going to have to pull the fire alarm or whatever it is and say, look what they're doing over there. And they'll be shut down pretty quick if they don't have permits to do it. And to get permits to do it, guess what? They got to go through the process. So I don't listen too much to that. I have the same thoughts in my head when somebody wants a second floor at their boathouse down on the lakefront. But the setbacks are greater than for backyard chickens, my goodness.
Let's not go there.
They're 2 meters. Yep, and the minimum is 1.2 meters. So it's greater than that. Having said all of that, we're dealing with some inches in height, and I'm not sure what the rest of the committee feels about that, but I'm telling you, I'm not concerned by the inches in height request. The 11 square meters, however, the pouring of the concrete foundation in advance, those are problematic to me. And I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm going to take a flyer here and say, I'm going to move a deferral so that staff and the builder and the applicant can have a discussion about those two things and see if there isn't a resolution to be had. But I'll move a deferral.
Rudy?
Yeah, just, I support the deferral motion. I think Dennis has summed up actually a number of the issues very well. And, I mean, you've got a lot of members of the community here voicing their concerns, and it's good to have them here voicing their concerns before there is a decision. And I think at the end of the day, what moves ahead needs to take in the concerns of the neighborhood, but also recognizing that we are also here dealing that, yes, we do issue variances. So I think the applicants and the builder have tried to work with the community, and I agree with Dennis that I don't have the concern with the height as well, but in terms of the pouring of the foundation in advance and also potentially the size, that should be something that should be discussed before we move ahead. So I support the deferral motion.
So you second that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Marcel, go ahead.
I thought I understood that there was some leeway in that size when I was talking to the applicant, to the agent. Could he repeat that if there was any leeway? Maybe we could solve this right here tonight.
Sam? Is there any flexibility on the square footage? The footprint, I guess, is what we could call it.
Again, I provided a layout to show what we could do to reduce the building. Again, it would substantially impact the usable nature of the building. And what we're here to ask for a minor variance, and what the area that we would remove faces my client's home. And my client alone sees the area that's removed. The height of the building will not change, that the neighbors will see. I want to stress that point, because the neighbors will see the back and the side of the building that will not change. The usable space that my clients can use and entertain with, that'll get impacted. So again, we're here to ask for minor variance. What the neighbors see will not be impacted regardless. And I want to stress this point as well. My clients were given a building permit, and the building was inspected. They didn't just start willy-nilly without approvals. They had approvals, and they had inspections done on the foundation. I can't stress that enough.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, I'm with Marcel on this, not to pick sides or anything, but I'd like to get it solved tonight, because I don't see how, I mean, we can defer, it's fine, but I think we're going to be in the same exact situation when we come back. I don't see what's going to change if the difference in the building is not impacting the neighbors. I don't see what putting it off is going to do, unless I'm missing something.
Okay, I think Mr. Sullivan would like to comment first, please.
Yes, hi. I'm fully supportive of the staff's position. I'm not challenging them whatsoever. I'd like to provide, through the chair, I'd like to provide an explanation of the building permit and the foundation issue, which for the committee's clarification. It's not unusual at all for the building department to issue a conditional permit, to issue a foundation-only permit. It's not building permit. The building department is under my supervision as well. So it's not unusual for them to issue a conditional building permit subject to obviously going ahead to the next stage, which would be putting the actual structure on, they would need to get the committee's, the variance would have to be approved, granted to do that. So I don't see any issue from my perspective on the foundation being brought out at this point. As the agent was saying, they've gone through the building department. It was before my time. I can't speak to the application specifically, but I don't see the foundation as being an issue. I say if I can give some direction to the committee, it's to look at the size of the variance requested, and which is both the square footage and the height. I don't see any issue with the foundation. Thank you.
So that being said, we have a motion on the floor for deferral. All in favor of a deferral? Opposed? It's failed. Motion's failed. Yeah, so I need a new motion. Is there a wishing of the committee to put another motion forward?
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
Move to approve. Seconder? Marcel?
I'm going to approve that, since it's all the extra footage is going to be at the backyard of the home. But like we were discussing, it isn't going to impact anybody else's view. So I think it's minor, and I'm going to vote for approval.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor
Mr.
for
Chairman?
approval for the name of John.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry? Go ahead,
Speaking to the
Dennis.
motion?
I'm sorry?
Speaking to the motion?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I listened to what the Director of Planning and Building has said, Mike Sullivan. I say his name out loud so that the pitchforks and torches can come out at some point. But I listened to what he said about the foundation, and I accept that. He's the expert, I'm not. He's an official planner, I'm not. And I listened to what the applicant's representative said about the changes, and they will be on the facing side, not the neighbor's side of that addition, or that additional space, not the addition, sorry. So based on those comments, I'm going to support the motion on the floor.
Okay. Anybody else? So we have a motion on the floor to approve file number ANPL 201-9332 in the name of John and Marlene Smith in accordance with the Section 45.1 of the Planning Act and Development. Requested relief is considered appropriate development, minor in nature, and it maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and the public input was received and therefore has been considered as part of this application. All in favor? And it's carried. Yeah, let's take 5 minutes and the room can clear, and I need some more water. Huh? No water. A little dried out. Yeah, no, absolutely. stick handle it pretty good. Yeah, so Adam had to take a leave, but we still have quorum. So next up is what are we doing here? We're doing a variance. Okay, 325. File number ANPL 201-9325 in the name of Barb Jacobs. Is the applicant on hand? Okay. Okay. And can the planner give their report, please?
All right, so this is a minor variance application to construct an accessory structure requiring relief from zoning bylaw provisions to allow for a building height of 7.12 meters and a usable floor area space of 278 square meters. The subject lands are 4,180 square meters or 1.03 acres in size and fronts onto the north side of Victoria Road in the geographic township of Charlotteville. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling, and the subject lands are zoned agricultural, with the adjacent lands on the west being the fire hall and the adjacent lands on the north and east being agricultural properties. The proposed development is considered appropriate in this instance as the requested relief is required in order to provide the applicant with adequate storage space. The requested relief from applicable zoning bylaw provisions is considered minor in nature and no public opposition of the application was received. Staff recommend that this application be approved.
Okay, any of the committee have any questions of the planner? No. Sir, can you got any? No? Okay. Is there a motion from the committee? Dennis? Marcel? So file number ANPL 201-9325 in the name of Barb Jacobs, in accordance with section 45.1 of the Planning Act, the development and requested relief is considered appropriate development, minor nature, and it maintains the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and that no public input was received, and therefore has not been considered as part of this application. All those in favor? That's carried. So next up is a minor variance application, ANPL 201-9323, in the name of Heinrich Bartsch. Is the applicant present? No, that's okay. Can the planner give their report?
Yep. This is a minor variance application to construct an accessory structure requiring relief from zoning bylaw provisions to allow for a height of 7.4 meters and a usable floor area space of 244 square meters. The subject lands are 6,960.6 square meters, or 1.72 acres in size, and fronts on the south side of Goshen Road in the geographic township of Middleton. The lands currently contain two single detached dwellings and existing sheds. One of the detached dwellings is currently not in use. The subject lands are zoned agricultural, and adjacent land uses primarily consist of rural residential and agricultural lots. The proposed development is considered appropriate as it is an accessory structure to a permitted residential use in the ag zone, and it is not out of character in terms of size and scale. The requested relief from applicable zoning bylaw provisions is considered minor in nature, and no public opposition to the application was received. Staff recommend that this application be approved.
Okay. And you are the applicant, ma'am? And do you have anything further to add? No? Okay. And does the committee have any questions of the planning staff? Okay. Secondary? Marcel? So application number ANPL 201-9323 in the name of Heinrich Bartsch, in accordance with section 45.1 of the Planning Act, that development and requested relief is considered appropriate development and minor in nature, and it maintains the general intent of the official plan zoning bylaw, and that no public input was received and therefore has not been considered as part of this application. All those in favor? And that is carried. step is an application for a variance, ANPL 201-9319, Rick and Heather Muehlmeister. Pretty good? Can the planner give the report?
It's an application by Rick and Mary Jo Muehlmeister. It's seeking relief. Rick and Heather? Rick and Heather. Sorry. They're seeking relief of lot coverage to replace an existing decks at the side of an existing cottage and replace the existing decks with the new decks and stairs. The application is to permit a lot coverage of 31%. The bylaw requirements allow a lot coverage of 15%, and the existing lot coverage at this point in time is 26%, and the proposed lot coverage will be a 5% increase from the existing lot coverage. The existing cottage will be raised, and the existing decks will be replaced to allow for access to the existing cottage because it's going to be higher. The applicant has contacted Long Point Region Conservation Authority, and they have granted a permit to raise the cottage and reinforce the existing shoreline protection. Application is recommended for approval because the requested relief from the bylaw is considered appropriate, minor in nature, and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw.
Does the committee have anything for the planning staff? Dennis?
A question and a comment, and certainly when I was down there, there's a lot of shoreline protection, hardening going on all down that area. I empathize and sympathize with the owners of cottages down there at the present time, but when looking at the page 4, is there an encroachment at all on the driveway on Erie Boulevard at all, registered on deed, or it just looks like it goes out onto Erie?
Not aware of any.
No, okay. I mean, just an observation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything to add, ma'am?
Not at this time.
Okay. And anything else from the committee? Motion? Motion approved. Seconder? So application ANPL 201-9319 in the name of Heather and Rick Muehlmeister. Sorry. Close? Or am I close? Okay, you'll take it. In accordance with section 45.1 of the Planning Act, development and requested relief is considered appropriate development minor in nature, and it maintains the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and that no public input was received and therefore has not been considered part of this application. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, next up is an application for variance. Application number ANPL 201-9336, Wilhelm Redicorp. Is the applicant present? Okay. And will the planner give the report?
So this is a minor variance application to construct an accessory structure requiring relief from zoning bylaw provisions to allow for a building height of 7.01 meters and a usable floor area space of 139.35 square meters. Subject lands, are 4,138 square meters in size, or 1.02 acres, and fronts onto the north side of Glenmire Road in the geographic township of Houghton. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling, and the subject lands are zoned as hamlet residential, as well as the adjacent land use to the east and west and north of the lot is currently zoned as agricultural. The proposed development is considered appropriate as it is an accessory structure to a permitted residential use in the hamlet residential zone and is not out of character in terms of size and scale. The requested relief from applicable zoning bylaw provisions is considered minor in nature and no public opposition has been received. Staff recommend that this application be approved.
Okay. Does the committee have anything for the planning staff? Sir, anything to add? No? Okay. Is there a motion from the committee? Dennis? Seconder? Rudy? That application ANPL 201-9336 in the name of Wilhelm Redekop. In accordance with Section 45.1 of the Planning Act, the development of requested relief is considered appropriate development, minor in nature, and it maintains the general intent of the Norfolk County official plan and zoning bylaw, and that no public input was received and therefore has not been considered as part of this application. All those in favor? That's carried. And next up is file number, it's a variance. File number ANPL 201-9335, Johan Friesen. Can the planner give the report?
So this is a minor variance application, right next door to the previous one we just talked about.
Oh.
So it's the exact same building as well. So it's requiring a variance of 7.01 meters in height and 139.35 square meters in usable floor area space. It also fronts onto the north side of Glenmire Road in the geographic township of Houghton. Just like the previous application, it contains a single detached dwelling, and the subject lands are zoned as residential hamlet surrounded by agricultural designations. The proposed development is considered appropriate as it is an accessory structure to a permitted use in the residential hamlet zone, and it is not out of character in terms of size and scale. The requested relief from applicable zoning bylaw provisions is considered minor in nature, and no public opposition to the application was received. Staff recommend that this application be approved.
Okay, thanks. Is there anything from the planning staff in the committee? Sir, do you have anything to add? No, you good? And a motion from the committee? Marcel? Seconder? Dennis? That application ANPL 201-9335 in accordance with Section 45.1 of the Planning Act and Development. Requested relief is considered appropriate development, minor in nature, and it maintains the general intent of the Norfolk County official plan and zoning bylaw, and that no public input was received and therefore has not been considered as part of this application. All those in favor? That's carried. You're good. Thank you. Okay, next up is a minor variance application, ANPL 201-9340, Larry and Mary Jo Bogner. I'm only taking one shot at it. Are they present? And can the planner give the report?
This application has been received to seek relief of lot coverage and front yard requirements of the zoning bylaw to allow the replacement of an existing non-conforming deck in the front yard of an existing cottage. The application is to permit the lot coverage from 15% to 25% and the front yard relief from the existing non-conforming front yard from 4.32 to 4.5 meters relief of 0.18 meters. There was a comment on regarding the existing trees in the front of the property, and the applicant was instructed to contact the county forest department regarding the trees. The property is occupied by a cottage with an existing front deck which has been removed, and the surrounding areas consists of cottages with front decks. The development and request for relief from the bylaw requirements is considered appropriate, minor in nature, and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Is recommended for approval.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Does the committee have any comments from the planning staff? No. Sir, do you have anything to add? No? Can I ask you about the tree? What did you look into the, and what did they say? Come and stand to the mic and push the button, please.
Yeah, I spoke to, was it Blair? I think yesterday, I'm not sure. But anyways, we wanted to cut the trees down, and he had a look at them, and he deemed them healthy. And because they're on township property, he says we could trim them up and everything, but didn't want to see them go down. So right. I agreed with it.
You're okay
so,
with that?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Dennis, go ahead.
The question,
Sir?
sorry, Mr. Wugner. So leaving the trees there does not change your plans or doesn't alter? No? Okay,
No,
thank you.
no, no.
Okay, thank you. Motion from the committee? Rudy? Marcel? So application number ANPL 2019340 in the name of Larry and Mary Jo Wagner. I hope I have that right. In accordance with section 45.1 of the Planning Act, development and requested relief is considered appropriate development, minor in nature, and it maintains the general intent of the official plan, zoning, and the zoning bylaw, and that no public input was received and therefore has not been considered as part of this application. All those in favor? That's carried. And next up is a severance application. File number BNPL 2019343 in the name of Vanessa Hajima. How we do? Pardon me? Hyama? Okay, thank you. Hyama? Silent J, yes. Can the planner give the report, please?
This is an application to sever a parcel of land having a frontage of 10 meters and an area of 187 square meters to be added to an existing vacant lot with a combined lot size of 493.63 square meters. The lot is proposed to be used for the construction of a duplex dwelling. The property is located in the urban area of Simcoe, and the development of the lot is considered intensification and the efficient use of the existing infrastructure in the area. The surrounding land is used for residential purposes. Should be noted that there is an existing fourplex on the retained land, and the associated parking will remain with the retained lot. The proposed severance will make the retained lot and the proposed amalgamated lot a little undersized with respect to lot area, and the applicant will be required to make application for minor variances for both lots. And this has been suggested as a condition of approval. The application is consistent with the policies of the PPS and the Norfolk County official plan, and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions attached to the planning report.
Thank you. Does the committee have anything for the planning staff? Dennis, go ahead.
It's a very minor question relative to parkland dollars. It doesn't affect anything there?
Excuse me?
Money's required for parkland?
No.
No? Okay.
And the applicant, do you have anything to add?
I heard there is minor variances required for both properties. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And I know for the existing fourplex, the 181 Dean Street, I need to apply for a variance to, because it doesn't meet the lot size, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and then for the, I just don't get the other one. What do I have to apply for that? 'Cause
Well,
it-
even with the combined properties, through the chair, even with the combined properties, you still don't meet the requirements of the zone for the duplex dwelling.
Doesn't a duplex dwelling require 450 square meters?
It's, I guess there was some discussion with respect to whether it's a semi-detached or a duplex.
Correct.
The definition with respect to the semi-detached is a unit side by each, and a duplex is one on top of the other. So the 450 square meters for a duplex dwelling, in accordance with the definition of a duplex dwelling, is a building with one on top of each other. And it's 255 square meters per unit for a semi-detached. And your proposed building is defined as a semi-detached, which requires a larger lot area.
So it has to be a semi-detached when it's side by side?
Well, that's the way it's defined.
Defined as in what?
It's defined under the zoning bylaw as a dwelling that's considered as a semi-detached because it's side by side.
Okay, because I was trying to find that somewhere, but I couldn't find it, because I think my wife there, she...
You'll
she
find
sent
that
Paul
in
an
the
email today.
definitions of the zoning bylaw under 2.51, which is dwelling. It says semi-detached shall mean a building divided into two dwelling units with a vertical common wall with no interior access between the dwelling units, and each dwelling unit fronting on a street. That's exactly what you are.
And what's the difference between a duplex?
A duplex shall mean a building containing two dwelling units with no internal access between dwelling units, but not including a semi-detached dwelling.
Right, so it doesn't say it has to be upper and lower in that definition.
No, not in the duplex, but the semi-detached does.
Right.
They're beside each other.
Right. But we're in the duplex. We are still under a duplex under that definition.
But the style of building is a semi-detached.
Because it has two...
units facing the street.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I spoke to somebody on the phone today, and they said that, no, you're correct, that I could do this, and it'd be considered a duplex. Not sure who called me.
That would be me.
You?
I called you.
Yes.
And yes, it's considered a semi-detached. And according to talking to a building inspector, a duplex is one on top of each other, semi-detached is side by side. So you are required to have the proper lot area in order to do that. And according to the definition, that's exactly what you're building.
I guess
So can I just interject here, Mike, for my own, you want to build a semi-detached?
No, we
You
want
want
to build a duplex.
Right,
But our plans, which we have,
right,
are side by side.
okay.
Now, sure, they're side by side. And when we look online on Norfolk County's duplex, before we got our plans made, nowhere did it say it had to be upper and lower. It just had to be a wall in between and separate entrances.
Okay,
That's exactly what we did.
okay, so going back to the lot coverage for
It's-
a duplex, are they,
450 square meters.
and how
And
shy?
they would meet that size.
Right,
Except that the way that the building department has looked at this, and according to the definition of in the zoning bylaw, it's considered a semi-detached because of the way it's built.
So is it just a matter of the terminology, or?
Basically, yes.
Just,
The use is
so
still.
they want to build a duplex, but the terminology calls it a semi-detached. Is that
Correct. That's
to
correct.
meet the, okay. You follow that?
What we're asking for is, we understand we have to have the minor variance for 181 Dean Street because now that fourplex doesn't have the proper square meters needed.
Right.
But what we're asking is that, why do we need the minor variance now for 164 Kent Street when we put it together? Because we are applying for a duplex. I guess there's a,
I think we're getting some mix-up in the terminology, maybe?
well, the terminology is very vague, like it doesn't
Yeah.
really state.
Dennis?
Yeah, the question is there a superior document such as the Building Code of Canada that gives definitions, and does the definition in the zoning bylaw replicate those definitions?
It does not, no.
No.
So, but, okay, my question, is there a definition of a duplex in the Building Code of Canada?
I don't know.
I think we better find that out.
We Googled it, and all it says is something about we Googled it the other night.
Well, I wouldn't count on Google
I know.
for,
It's pretty much says what Norfolk County says too. It's very vague.
but it's different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, right?
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Just so we're clear on that.
like every county is different too. so-
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead,
It's
Marcel.
one roof, though, isn't it?
Correct, one roof. We are only asking for one sewage line in, one water line in. We're not asking for separate. It will never be sold separately. It is going to always be a duplex. We're not asking to sever these off later and sell them like semis are. That's not what we're
Right. They'll
asking.
be on title as a duplex.
Correct.
Okay.
We're just asking to pay the one minor variance, which we know we need, then both. Correct. One of everything.
But you'd have a dual hydro service.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, just like a duplex.
Okay.
But when it's a semi, then you gotta move it over from the lot, a lot of work to allow for a garage down the road, and then when I move it over, because the lot is an L shape, I probably have to apply for another variance, because the left unit will not have enough rear yard. So then I'm asking for a variance here, a variance there, and,
I understand.
so.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So pass it with an additional condition.
No, modified.
I'm sorry?
Modify the condition.
Modified condition, oh, okay. So we'll, so just a modification of the conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
So is there a safety valve here that says when they go for a building permit and they say, we want to build a duplex, that will trigger something?
No, what we're proposing to do is modify the application to say that they require, right now, the conditions state that they require 2 variance applications. So we'll modify the condition to say that 1 variance and the second variance if
With applicable. Okay,
if applicable. Thank you.
okay. And you're okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so it'll proceed. Okay, so now let me see if there's any, is there anyone here that would like to speak to this application aside from, yeah, I know, we have some public. Is Frances Brinker here? Okay, she's not. So that being said, does anybody else have any comments for the planning staff? No, we're good? Motion? Motion to approve? Subject to modified conditions? Okay.
I never seen it.
I never seen that.
No, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I guess
so,
it was a home existing.
seconder?
so.
Rudy? Marcel? Rudy? So, application BNPL 201-9343, Vanessa Haima. The proposed application is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the Norfolk County official plan. The proposed severance will create a lot for the construction of a semi-detached dwelling which will allow for the efficient use of existing infrastructure, and the public input was received and therefore has been considered as part of this application, subject to the modified conditions. All in favor? That's approved. There you go. Thank you. So, applications for a severance. We're getting down there. File number BNPL 201-93333 in the name, I think that was too many threes, in the name of Lynn Sonnenberg. The planner can give their report.
All right, so this is a boundary adjustment application in the urban area of Port Dover. Subject lands are 59.13 square meters in size and has no frontage on a municipal road. However, the subject lands are immediately adjacent and abutting the proposed boundary adjusted parcel that has frontage on St. Patrick Street. The lands currently contain the fence line and a portion of the backyard for 28 St. Patrick Street. This is a result of historical encroachment. There are no proposed structures to be built on the subject lands. The official plan permits consents to sever land in the urban residential area. Planning staff encourage minor boundary adjustments where there is a historical use of land that is not currently represented by the present boundaries. The intent of the boundary adjustment is considered good planning. The lands are designated and zoned for urban residential type 2 or R2 in the zoning bylaw. Single detached dwellings and associated accessory structures are permitted uses in the urban residential type 2 zone. The subject application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the OP consent policies. Staff recommend that this application be approved subject to the attached conditions.
Okay. Does the committee have anything for the planning staff? Sir, anything to add?
You can offer your report and questions if you have any.
Okay. Motion. Dennis? I should ask if, is there anyone that wants to speak to the application? Seconder, Marcel? So that being said, application file number BNPL 201-9333, Lynn Sonnenberg. The application is consistent with the Provincial Policy Statement 2014 and conforms with the intent of Norfolk County's official plan regarding boundary adjustments, and that no public input was received and therefore has not been considered as part of this application. All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you very much.
There, what do I spell? It's a long night. Okay, last but certainly not least, application for a severance. File number BNPL 201-9339, Diane Kelly and Brian Colt. Okay, and the planner can give their report.
All right, so this application is being deferred by the applicants to the December 18th Committee of Adjustment meeting, and will be addressed at that time. Just so you guys are aware, this is a result of the deputation that was made regarding spatial separation. So now we're requiring further calculations beforehand so that they are no longer a condition. So all this sort of was caught in the middle of that flux there, so it just provides them with a little bit more time.
Okay, thanks. So a motion for deferral. Rudy? Seconded by Mark. Dennis? All in favor? Any other business?
I just want to clarify something earlier. Dennis, you alluded to the fact that we're increasing accessory residential heights for like accessory structures. That's only occurring in the resort residential and agricultural area in the next zoning bylaw update that is going on.
That wouldn't have applied to this.
Correct. That would
this
not
one
have,
application
that
from
would
earlier.
not have applied to any sort of property that is zoned as urban residential. It's just resort residential and agricultural.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay.
The building department needs to be more clear as to when you see a report as they're commenting about these units, because they have to meet all those criteria before coming to the committee.
Okay.
They're going to review the application going forward. So we're dealing with the building department, when we get an application in, send it up for comment. If they're receiving it, we're going to always recommend it as deferral unless they come up with all the necessary agreements prior to coming to the committee.
Okay. Streamline the process. Dennis? Anything?
Just, we got a notice to be here at next meeting. But
Okay. 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 That it? Rudy? Marcel? Anything? Okay, got a motion for Dennis.